Hi, today we'll be looking at the distance and the midpoint formulas. Okay, let me start by giving you an overview of the distance formula, and that says that if you're given 2 points, say P1 equals x1 and y1, and then you're given another point P2 equals x2, y2. So what it says is that if you want to find the distance between P1 and P2, the distance is denoted by d of P1 and P2, and that is given by the root of the difference between two squares. Now the first square is the difference between the 2x coordinate, which is x2 minus x1 all squared, plus the difference between the y coordinate, which is y2 minus y1 squared. And this is the midpoint. Sorry, this is the distance formula. The distance formula. Next, we look at the midpoint formula. The midpoint formula. Now, what the midpoint formula says is that, assuming you are given 2 points, say the first one is P1 and the next one is P2, and then you want to find the coordinates of the midpoint between them. So let's call this xy. So what it says is to find the midpoint, and assuming that the coordinate of the first point is x1, y1, while the coordinate of the second point is x2, y2. So all it says is to find the midpoint of the line segment joining P1 and P2. All you need to do is find the average of the x coordinate and the average of the y coordinate. In other words, what I mean is xy, which is the midpoint, equals the average of the x coordinate, which is x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and the average of the y coordinate, which is y1 plus y2 divided by 2. And this is the midpoint formula. So let's go ahead and solve some examples. So the first example we have here says, given 2 points P1 and P2, so this is my solution. So the first point I'm given is P1, which is -3,2, and my second point is P2, which is 6,0. Now I'm told to find the distance between P1 and P2. They've already given us the notation for the distance between P1 and P2. Now recall that to find the distance between P1 and P2, we need to use the distance formula, which is this. Now to use the distance formula, I need to know my x1, my x2, my y1, my y2. It doesn't really matter whichever one you choose as your first and second coordinate. You could choose this as your x1, y1, and this one as your x2, y2, or you could also choose this as your x1, y1, while this as your x2, y2. So let's go ahead and choose them arbitrarily. So let's call this my x1. This is going to be my y1, while this will be the second coordinate, the second y coordinate. Now to implement the formula, so that is the distance between P1 and P2, which is equal to the square root of my x2 minus x1 squared, which is 6 minus -3 all squared, plus y2 minus y1 squared, which is 0 minus 2 all squared. Now this is going to give us 6 minus -3, 6 plus 3, which is 9 squared, plus 0 minus 2 is -2. Now -2 squared is 2 squared. Now this is going to give us the root of 81 plus 4, which is the square root of 85. So this is the distance between P1 and P2. So we have already solved option 1. So 2 says find the midpoint of the line segment joining P1 and P2. So recall that to find the midpoint of a line segment, this is the formula we need to use. Just find the average of the x coordinate and the average of the y coordinates, and you're done. So to find my midpoint, which I'm going to call x, y, we said it's going to be the average of the x coordinates, that is x1 plus x2 divided by 2. That's minus 3 plus 6 divided by 2, and the average of the y coordinate, which is 2 plus 0 divided by 2. Now this is going to give me 3 all over 2, comma 2 plus 0 divided by 2 is 1. And this is the midpoint of the line segment joining P1 and P2. So let's see another interesting example. Now the example here says